Forever and always, I'm always here. Hello everyone, it's me, Tom. I want to welcome you back to Always and Forever, episode 4. Now, it feels like it's been a very, very long time since we've talked, and as a matter of fact, it really has. For most of you listeners, it's been roughly 3 weeks, and for me also, it's been 3 weeks, but it feels like a lifetime. And I just want to say how happy I am to be back talking about Baywatch, talking about the characters and the stories that we love so much. It's just very, very nice to be around a community that's together and pushing and striving towards one single goal, and that is to really unlock the keys of knowledge that the show holds just underneath the sand. You know, I'm glad we all have our metal detectors out to find these little nuggets of joy and fun and sorrow and pain. You know, all wrapped up into to one package, if you will. And I know a lot of you are saying, thank goodness we're finally going to get to really dig into the pilot episode and get, finish that off and finally get there to the finish line. I will say that we won't be doing that in this episode, and I'll explain to you why. And I think it will become clear as the episode unfolds why we won't be doing that. We're actually going to jump slightly ahead to episode 19 of season 1, and it's a very stark change from the pilot episode. In fact, it's a very sad episode in some ways, and a very uplifting one in others. So as we go along, we're going to kind of weave the episode into this episode, and hopefully come out in the end with a great understanding and give us a real launching pad, to dive off into. If we want to dive off into the ocean, this will be a great place to start. So, the other thing I wanted to address, obviously, is the ending of last episode. And to be quite honest with you, I'm sort of putting the pieces together of that myself. I re-listened to it, and like many of you, I was confused by the abrupt ending, and as time has passed, I've been able to again kind of put it together and get the scrambled eggs back in their, well, I guess back in their egg. I don't know how to really any other way to describe it. So yes, towards the end of last episode, apparently yes, the fumes from the the exterminators, again, Dynamite family, became so overwhelming that I fell. Essentially I fell and hit my head on the sewing table that we have in here. It's very large, old, heavy wood, and I hit my head on that. And from my recollection, I was already unconscious as I was falling, and hitting my head on the sewing table was, I guess, doubled that effect, if such a thing is even possible or plausible. And to that end, I laid up here, I guess, for 4 to 5 hours, and I was, discovered when the bus to actually take me to summer camp arrived. And apparently there's a lot of honking, and people were angry that I was not out front with my bag. So my parents came running upstairs. Tom, wake up! What are you doing? Get out! Get your stuff. And unbeknownst to me, I was just loaded onto the school bus. Now, and in my mind, probably an ambulance would have been more appropriate. Something like that to take me to a more traditional hospital, but I wasn't there to argue my case. So I was loaded up onto the bus. Pardon me for 1 second. I'm gonna get my straw and have a sip of water. Oh, delicious. So yes, I was loaded onto the bus, and it's a 6-hour drive to out to camp, and I was very disappointed. There's a lovely, lovely rhubarb farm that's on the way, and I love to pull down the bus window and really take in a deep breath of that and get a good view. But, I was apparently just, well, I don't know if sleeping is the right word to describe it, but I was unconscious and throughout the 6-hour drive. And so we arrived at the camp, and they loaded me into the medical facility, which is really just a, it's a private room, essentially. It's just a bed and with a door. And there I laid. There I laid for hours and hours and hours. And this I have absolutely no memory of. And I, was out the entire night. Apparently they tried to feed me some sort of milkshake or something, but, that didn't hold, obviously. But to their surprise and my surprise, as I don't recall any of this, I sprung out of bed sharp at 6 a.m. and ran on down to the bungalow where they keep the canoes, and I said, I must have a canoe. I'm ready to go sailing. I must. And personally, I would think after 20 plus years of being a camper here, they would know that this is entirely out of character for me, as I am not one to participate in any kind of water activity, whether that be skiing, swimming, floating, certainly not canoeing. But as it may, they did give me a canoe, and I guess paddled myself out to the the middle of the pond or lake, as you would call it, and laid down in the canoe. And if you know anything about the Decatur area this time of year, it is quite hot, to say the least. And for whatever reason, I was not discovered till almost midnight the following night, as they were gathering up the canoes that had escaped the dock there. And as they pulled me in, I was unconscious once again. The doctors are calling this one a light coma, and I'm not sure how those things are differentiated, or I'm no doctor, believe me. Unfortunately, neither was the the nurse, or if you would want to call it a nurse at the campground. It's really more just a camper who's participated in a few first aid classes, but that's neither here nor there. So they pulled me in, and they say I was almost glowing red from the exposure. And again, this was unconscious, not from a fall or anything. They're speculating that it was just dehydration, and as if you suffer a concussion, you're obviously not supposed to be carousing about in a canoe. So a combination of these intense sun, dehydration, and these factors probably led to, again, what they're calling a light coma. And so from there, I'm going to take a quick break. Apologies for that quick break. I have to take some small breaks to apply ointments and whatnot. But to continue on from where I left off, this is where my memories start to come alive. I was having very, very vivid dreams, through the fever and through the, the bout and the battle with consciousness and so forth. And I began to have this vision of floating in the ocean on a lifeboat, and as I looked all around me, all I could see was blue water. It's very hazy, and, I'm thirsty. I can feel my throat parched, and I can feel the sun beaming down on me, and I cry out, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm trapped. I'm stranded in the middle of the ocean, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a large figure, broad shoulders, looming over me and saying, Tom, it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up and save yourself. He says, and I look up into beat blue eyes, and I say, is that you, Mitch? Mitch, are you here for me? And he says, yes, I'm always here. And he begins slapping me across the face over and over again. Wake up, Tom, wake up. It's time to get up. And, I feel the sting and the burn of the slaps across the face. And As I open my eyes, I realize I'm not, in fact, in the ocean. I am in the medical room, as I stated earlier, and the sharp, stinging, burning pain is not from the big bear paw of Mitch. It is actually from what the doctors are describing a stage 4 sunburn, which, as you can imagine, is quite painful. In fact, it's another first for the podcast. And I do pride this podcast on accomplishing many firsts already. And this is just another one in the, another feather in the old cap, if you will, that I am the first stage 4 sunburn victim, if you want to call it victim. I certainly do, in Greater Decatur. So if you're ever wondering that, it could be a nice piece of trivia. Yes, it is Tom Boatwater, stage 4 sunburn survivor currently. So as I awoke again, I was in excruciating pain, and again, due to the lack of facilities there, I just had a few, ibuprofen and some lotions that they, I guess, got out of some campers' backpacks. So that had to do for the next 4 days. Again, I was kind of in and out of consciousness due to the pain. Excuse me. I'm still suffering some of the ill effects of that, obviously. But on the bright side, I did get to do, a little bit of the beadwork that I had hoped to accomplish. I had visions of, a nice beach mural, all beadwork, and, with the sand and the lifeguard stand and all of that. But as it turns out, it just kind of ended up being a red, kind of a red blob, if you will. I guess indicative of, the intense sun and the excruciating pain. So that may not be something I'll be showing off in the old Baywatch chat rooms and whatnot. Maybe next year, I guess I can give it another shot under better circumstances. But overall, I guess you could say the camp was a success. I had a nice time. Many of the campers wrote me some nice cards, and more friendship bracelets than that I know what to do with at this point. Understandably, some of the younger kids were angry with me because after something like that, they're not going to allow people to use the canoes, and many of the I think the horseshoe tournament was unfortunately canceled, and needless to say, there were some unhappy campers. But I'm sure I'll see them over the next few years, and we'll smooth these things out over time, much like the waves on the shore smooth the sand during high and low tide. So on that note, I just arrived back home and was taken to a medical, a more traditional medical facility where they ran a series of tests, to check the brain and, whatnot, everything that kind of went wrong. They wanted to, do a double check on that. And I'm happy to announce that there are, as far as they can tell, no long-term effects from this outside of the, the skin. The skin is having some issues, but beyond that, it's nothing that that's going to affect me, or really, most importantly, this podcast. While I'm not able to really put on clothes at this point, it's not going to stop me from recording this podcast. And I feel a duty to Mitch, obviously, and I feel a duty to you, the community. And, as in my eyes, I prefer to you as a family. So, that's been great. And, a quick aside, I was able to, while there was some downtime in the waiting room, I was able to give the doctor, Dr. Breen, who's again a dynamite doctor, a copy, a link, I guess you would say. I don't have any hard copies just yet of the podcast, but I did give him a link. And I think he listened to it. As far as I know, he enjoyed it. I could hear him asking my parents, about the podcast and how long I've been doing it, and I assume this is just kind of a housekeeping thing for him. He had asked them if I had suffered any brain injuries prior to this, the fall in the linen closet. And, as far as I know, no, I hadn't. So I'm glad we got that squared away. And the reason I wanted to discuss episode 19 of season 1 is because I think it really fits in well here. In the opening, vignette, the opening scene, Mitch is on vacation, which is a rare thing for Mitch. Is duty overrides all in his world, and in mine as well, as we carry on with this podcast through thick and thin. It shows him hang gliding. It's beautiful, and he's in command. He's soaring through the air like an eagle, as you would expect. But a rogue gust of wind upends, I guess you would call it, the hang glider, the contraption, the flying contraption, and it blows him directly into a tree, where he is severely injured and knocked unconscious, which, as you know, ties directly into what happened to me, and I do not think this is a coincidence. Now, while Mitch ran into a live tree, it was a Hibithian tropical tree. I fell into a former tree, on the desk, a wooden desk. So it was more of a pine, not of the tropical variety, but a tree nevertheless. And I feel this is a sign. This is a sign to carry on. It's inspirational to see Mitch's recovery throughout the episode, and we're really going to dig into that as we go on with this episode. But I do feel it is a bit of serendipity. That me and Mitch, we seem to be mirroring each other, and the trials and tribulations of this world that we live in, and how we must overcome. We must. And so yes, it's wonderful, and I think we're gonna go directly from here. Mitch is, we're setting the stage for this. Mitch has fallen. He's fallen down. He's laying on the ground. He doesn't have his wits about him. Oh, I'm very, very sorry. My medication alarm, this is where I have to go soak in it's a tub. It's an old boat water remedy, apparently. We fill the tub up about 2/3 with, scalding hot water and, a big bucket full of lemon juice. And this apparently was passed on from my grandfather, and this is supposed to be a salve, I guess you could call it, for sunburns and skin irritations. I do question the efficacy of it, as it is not a very pleasant experience. But on that note, I must bid you all adieu, and it's wonderful to be back. And we will be back again next week, and I cannot wait to see you guys here. As always, I'm always here.